Okay, never throw anything away. Could be deemed as a pack rat, that's okay. Hoarder, I'll own it. This was a board that I was supposed to use on a divider wall in my studio. And we ended up doing a different plan, but I decided to keep the wood because you just never know. So what I'm gonna do is I've had printed out, just for a pattern, I had printed out this Colorado flag. My guys at Aspen Reprographics, thank you. And so what I'm gonna do is, I need to cut this board down. I could just mosaic it without cutting it because I'm gonna use it for photography. However, if I do that, it means if I ever wanted to frame it, which I might, then I wouldn't be able to do that. It would be really difficult to cut it after I had done the mosaic. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it just in case. So. Lucky for me, the width is perfect. So, and I'm gonna leave a little border on it also, again, in case I decide to frame it. So I'm just gonna put a little piece of tape on it to hold it in place just for a minute. So it doesn't wiggle. And I'm in a new studio space and it's hard, I'm having trouble finding everything, including my apron. But lucky for me, I had a pen in the car. So I have this nice straight edge. So there we go. Don't need that now. Okay. It's nice until I'm ready to use it again. I think these guys rolled it from here. There's a rubber band, but I think it's over there somewhere. Yeah, at my age, I've just decided to accept my quirkiness. It's okay. Right there. Okay, so now I do have this fantastic power tools. Move it over here so you guys can see. Oh look, Blondie missed part of the pen. Let's try again. There we go. Okay. You still can't see. Hold on. Well, there's so much stuff at the other end. You're gonna have to take my word for it. Okay, for sure, at home, if you ever attempt this, you should have eye protection and ear protection. Don't do what I did. Okay, now it's ready to go. So now we're gonna transfer the design onto the board. pretty good. So, I mean, it's a pretty, I don't want to say simple, but I mean, it is sort of a simple design from a mosaic perspective. So it's something I probably could just wing, honestly, but it's so important because it is the Colorado flag that I want to make sure that the proportions are correct. I didn't want to mess that up in any way. So that's why I went ahead and had this printed out so that I could follow it exactly, just to make sure. Okay, now what do I have? A marker would be good. All right, well, what I'm gonna do, let's see. The other thing you could do is if you had tracing paper, that would be really helpful. I probably do. I know I've used it in the past, but finding it would be a whole other set of challenges. Besides, this is really just meant to be a guide, and it is making a mark on the other side, so. Yeah, it's very faint, but I will be able to see it, which is what is important. And again, it's got a little bit of an extra border on it, so this is really just meant to be a guide for where I finish the mosaic. It's not even totally straight here. That's my issue, not the printer's issue. Yep. Okay. I will also, I'll hold on to this. It's called a cartoon, actually. It's an Italian term. It's called cartoon, that is meant to be your guide. So I'll actually hold on to this while I'm working, just so I can reference back to it. It's very faint. It's just the slightest indentation, but it's enough for me. And probably what I'll do after is go back with a marker. You have to also remember that in Mosaic, the grout lines are actually pretty forgiving. So when I butt up a red piece to what will be a yellow piece here, the circle will actually create itself with the grout line. Same as here. So when the red bumps up against the blue, it will create, the grout line itself will create this line. So when I've been thinking about doing this mosaic, I've actually been thinking a lot about the grout lines and how when you mosaic, you know, the idea behind the piece, the cartoon, is that the idea is that the image is solid, you know, the color is solid. So I've kind of been, you know, going back and forth a little bit about what the grout lines would look like, but it really can't be helped. It's mosaic. And unless I was going to do it, which I'm planning to do it in ceramic tile, if I was planning to do it in smalty, then I wouldn't have the grout lines. But because it's such a large piece and the time frame that I have, ceramic really makes the most sense. And I have all of the pieces, I have all of the tile already on hand, so I didn't have to order anything. So that's what we're doing. So sort of a lucky thing that I had a ballpoint pen. I don't think a pencil would have worked. So yeah, I think I will go back over it now that I've created the pattern on the wood. Now that I've created just a tiny little indentation, I'll go back over it with a marker just so that I have it. But then I'll also have the cartoon to refer back to. Okay, so couldn't find a marker. So I'll have to bring one of those from home. I'm 100% confident there's a marker in here. I just can't tell you where. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and start breaking up my tile so it's ready to go. There's a couple different ways that you can do that, or a couple different procedures or processes, not the right word, a couple different methods that you can use to mosaic. And when I'm doing a portrait, it's very, very specific. We use different tools and you cut the tile specific to where it's going in the face or in the portrait. When you're working with something like this with ceramic tile, you can actually pre-cut all your tile ahead of time and then just kind of piece it back together, sort of like a puzzle. So the Colorado flag has white, red, blue, and yellow. The blue represents Colorado skies. The white represents the Rocky Top, the snow on the Rocky Top Mountains. The red represents a couple different things, but it's the earth, it's the basalt rock, and then also the yellow is meant to represent the sun, and the gold that we also had miners come for, but it's also, we have over 300, on average, over 300 days of sunshine every year. So another fun fact is that the colors of the Colorado flag, the red and the blue and the white, are identical to the colors in the United States flag because Colorado was the 38th state, and it became a state when America was 100 years old. So it's called the Centennial State, which also is the C for Colorado in the flag, but it also stands for Centennial because it was the United States Centennial. So this year we're actually celebrating the 150th anniversary of Colorado becoming a state, which is also the 250th anniversary of the United States. So these are the colors that I have on hand. Let me just wipe off some of the dust on here. This is kind of it's more of an orangey red. It's an interesting thing. It's hard to find red and pink tiles. It has to do with how they create the color, and it can be kind of toxic. So it's just kind of a hard color to find, but this is really the closest that I have. This is white. I have a couple different yellows. I'm gonna go with this darker yellow. This one's a little too lemon. It's not really right. If you look it up, you can find the right CMYK, hex, and Pantone colors for all of the colors in the flag. I have these two different blues. It's probably not easy for you to see, but they're just subtle difference. So I'm gonna go with this darker one. I think that will play better with what we're doing. So I'm just gonna start breaking these up, and thankfully I could find my gloves. Still haven't found my apron. It's here somewhere. I actually have two aprons. Don't know where they are. So with these ceramic tiles, I'm using just regular nippers. You can get these on Amazon. They're just regular nippers. And then I have this little hammer. And I also, normally I have, I use takeout food containers, like the plastic ones that I use to when I break up tile. I think I got rid of all of those when I moved. So I have these nice little containers. So I'm gonna start breaking everything up, and then we'll be ready to mosaic next time. So I turn it over. Whoa, you need to glue that. So I turn it over so that I'm not breaking on the top where the color is, where the glaze is. That way I shouldn't have any splintering. So I got that far. Good anger management. So I have kind of a way that I hold it. I hold them I don't know if you can see that, but between my fingers. So when you're cutting with a regular nipper, you're actually cutting from the side. I don't know if you can see that. Cutting from the side. And the reason I do it like that is to see how my fingers, my two index fingers caught that piece when it broke, so it doesn't go flying. So that looks about the right size. There's no real rhyme or reason to how you're cutting it at this point. You may end up, as you are using the tiles and working within the mosaic, you may end up, you know, needing to trim them at some point. Or so there's a good example. There's a hole in the finger. There's a good example of how it broke a little bit differently, even though I broke it from the back. So you just never know how it's gonna go. And so in this mosaic, it's a pretty large piece, and so I don't have to worry about the pieces being really tight together. Again, trying to create those grout lines, because the grout's important. The grout has to hold it all together at the end. So this, because it has that little bit right there on the bottom, in another piece, I might be worried about it. I might be worried that that little piece on the bottom doesn't allow me to get close enough to the next piece next to it, which, you know, I could just cut it off like that. But in this case, I don't really think I have to worry about it. That piece is a little too big. So yeah, so I'm just gonna cut up all these pieces and make sure I'm ready to go. So the next time I'm here, I'm ready to start. That piece was already had a little broken piece on it, so we're not going to use him. Okay, see you next time. Hey, so I have broken up a bunch of tile and I started to lay out some pieces, and I remembered that I had these glass hearts, and I thought that that could be really fun to include. So I have both a red one and a blue one, and I've played around with it for a little bit, and I really kind of prefer the blue. So I'm gonna go with that. So I'm gonna start, I usually start with the smallest part first, which is sort of, I think I learned that when I learned how to do needlepoint, you always kind of do the smaller items first. So I do that, and then I'll just probably work my way out, and the blue will be the last part that I do. I just have this ready fix, ready to use, simple fix adhesive, and it also serves as a grout. But normally especially with the ceramic tile, and when I'm working on a sculpture, when I'm doing vertical application, I will use concrete. I like to use concrete. It's cheap and it's easy to mix up. You can just mix up how much you need. You can kind of play with the mixture too a little bit, so that if you need something that's a little softer, if you need something like for vertical application, I typically need it to be a little thicker. So, but I had this from a project that I had done at home, and I tiled my kitchen. So I had this, and so I'm just going to go ahead and use this. Kind of goopy. Still can't find my apron. But I have seen some other mosaic artists who like to use popsicle sticks to apply the adhesive to the tile. I just use my finger. So yeah, which is why I never get a manicure. It never looks good. I should probably get manicures. Anyway, that's it. And so I'm just gonna keep working, and I'll check back in with you later. Okay, so I'm ready to grout. I finally finished all the mosaic and it's ready to grout. So it's kind of a good idea to stand it up like I just did, just to be sure that there aren't any loose pieces, because that's the time you want to find out. You don't want to find out in the middle of grouting. I have had that happen before, and if you have a piece that comes out, you can throw some quick glue on it and put it back in, and then the grout will hold it in place. But it's better to figure all of that out now. So there's like a little bit of adhesive that's on here. So I'm just gonna kind of clean it up a little bit. And then Again, in the don't ever throw anything out category, I found I don't have the bowls that I normally have to do grouting. So I think what happened is at the end, when I was moving out of my last studio, they were plastic bowls and they were covered in grout, and so I just threw them out. So anyway, I did find this for today. I have some water and I normally use like a paint stick, a paint stirrer to mix my grout, or a wooden spoon. Don't have either of those today. So in the don't throw anything out category, this is a pole that goes on one of these shelves back here that I have an extra one of. So I'm gonna use that to mix up my grout. And this is because these are ceramic tiles. They just soak up the grout. They just eat it. So I'm gonna mix a pretty wet batch today just to make it easier to, so it'll have a little bit longer life. It's called pot life. It'll have a little bit longer pot life if it's a little wetter. So it gives me longer to work with the product, to work with the grout, because it's a chemical. It's designed to dry pretty quickly. So this is a big piece. So I may actually just do part of it, like do half and then check in and see how I'm doing, how my grout is, and then I'll do the other half. So then after that, we will polish it up and it will be finished. So stay tuned. So good news, I found my apron. I'm very happy. You can see it is well used and well loved. So just want to show you again what we're working with today. The grout that I'm using is for ceramic tile. I've chosen a color, it's called eggshell. So it will hopefully, because it's eggshell and not bright white, it will sort of recede into the background. I also have water, and at the end, after you grout, then you wipe it down with sponges. So I have these, and I have gloves to protect my hands and some old dish rags to polish it at the end. You can also use an old t-shirt. Oh, they sell t-shirt material at the hardware store. So sometimes I use that, but I have these today. So here we go. So I have grouted it. And I've also wiped it down with the sponge and wet water. So now I'm just letting it set a little bit so that if I started to polish it too soon, you would just be smearing around the wet concrete or grout. So that really doesn't make a ton of sense. So I'm gonna let it sit a little bit, and then I'll start to polish it, and then we'll be done. Meanwhile, I'm gonna dump this outside. Don't ever dump this down your drain. Put it in a trash bin outside. Also, I'm gonna dump out what's left of the grout. It's pretty great. I've mixed up just the right amount. And there is just a little bit left over, which I like having a little leftover in the event that, again, if anything becomes loose, or like as I'm polishing, I see maybe a space that didn't get filled. And if you saw as I was grouting, it's important to grout in both directions. So making circular motions this way and then making circular motions this way. That way you're making sure that you're covering all sides of the tile, making sure that it's, like I can see right there is a little spot that I want to fill in. So that's fine. You don't want to throw out your grout any leftover too soon, just in case. So yeah, we'll let this set up and then we'll start to polish. So actually you kind of really have to go over every single piece to make sure, because sometimes what happens is, I call it feathering, but I don't think that's a technical term, but where the grout sort of feathers across, like a little bit, like across the actual tile. And if you don't cover each tile, if you don't try to get it off of each tile, then you might lose a little piece in there. There might be a piece that gets hidden in the grout. And I am definitely in an industrial space. You can hear they're unloading some pallets outside. I don't know what, anyway, sorry about that noise. I also made sure that I added a ton of grout around this heart. Even though the adhesive is on there, again, the grout is really what holds it at the end. So it's important because of the weight of it, and I mean, it's supported by the tiles that are around it, but I also just wanted to put some extra grout in there just to be sure. Okay, it's almost finished. I am gonna let it sit for just another minute and then go back over it with another dry cloth, and then it'll be done. It's funny, I've been known to, like, I have friends who have, or people who've purchased my sculptures, and you know, when I visit their homes, I've been known to like go up and finish off. Like, I feel like he never finished polishing. And I'm gonna use a different cloth to do the second polish, because this one now already, it has some, you know, wet grout on it. So I'd just be smearing it all over it again. So I'm gonna use a fresh one. Now it's really heavy. But there you go. That's the whole thing. So thanks for riding along with me as I did this piece, and I hope you enjoyed it, and look forward to sharing it with you again in a different way. Stay tuned.